I'm Santa Esperanza. For over 15 years, I have dedicated my life to diving deep into the mystical writings and hidden journals of the great saints of our church, a journey that began in the quiet, heavy days after I lost my grandmother, the woman who raised me in the faith and was my first bridge to the heart of God. I know the piercing silence that death leaves behind, and my mission is to bring the revelations I found in those sacred texts to you so that you don't have to navigate the darkness of grief without the light that the saints have already discovered. You have likely sat in the stillness of your home, perhaps looking at an empty chair or a fading photograph, asking the one question that haunts every heart that has ever loved and lost. Can you see me? Do you know the struggles I am facing right now, or have you moved so far into the light of God that you've disconnected from my world entirely? Saint Bridget of Sweden, one of the most extraordinary mystics in history, was granted a series of profound visions by Christ himself to answer this very cry, pulling back the veil to show us exactly what happens in the spiritual realm when we look toward those who have passed. The answer, recorded in the celestial revelations, dictated to Saint Bridget, is a beautiful and staggering yes. O mais estágio de homo is that your loved ones do see you, but not in the fragile physical way we see each other here on earth. Saint Bridget revealed that the souls in heaven do not look down as if through a window in the clouds. Instead, they see everything in what she described as the divine mirror. They see our lives, our needs, and our sorrows reflected in the face of God Himself, who allows them to know exactly what is necessary for our salvation and how they can best intercede for us from the other side. When St. Bridget first received these revelations in the 14th century, the sheer weight of what she saw was enough to shake her soul to its core. Yeah, she didn't just hear words, she witnessed the active, vibrating connection between the living and the dead, seeing how the barrier we call death is actually a thin, permeable veil of grace. She saw that our departed family members are not passive memories, but active participants in our spiritual journey, often more aware of our true needs than we are ourselves. The gravity of this reality is far greater than a simple hallmark sentiment. It is a theological truth that St. Bridget saw as a matter of life and death for our own souls, as the intercession of those who see us in God can be the very force that pulls us through our darkest trials. You might feel a sudden, inexplicable urge to pray for a parent who passed years ago, or perhaps you wonder how they can witness your suffering without losing the perfect happiness of heaven. To understand how this connection works without breaking the peace of eternity, we must look closer at the specific images Christ showed to Bridget, visions that explain the window of prayer and the incredible role of the angels who carry our love across the divide. The reality of the communion of saints is not a distant concept, but a living, breathing conversation that is happening right now in this very moment as you listen to these words. I want to show you that this isn't just a beautiful sentiment meant to dry your tears for a moment. This is a reality anchored in the highest mystical tradition of our church and the very Word of God. To understand how your loved ones see you, we have to look at the how and the why through the eyes of St. Bridget of Sweden, a woman who didn't just speculate about the afterlife, she was invited to see its inner workings. In the mid-14th century, after the death of her husband, Bridget began receiving what would become the Celestial Revelations, 8 volumes of dictated wisdom from Christ and the Virgin Mary. It was in these pages, specifically in Book 1, that the mystery of the divine mirror was explained. Jesus showed Bridget that when a soul enters the beatific vision, they don't look back at the earth with human eyes. Instead, they gaze into the face of God, and in that infinite divine light, they see everything that pertains to our well-being and salvation. Imagine God as a sun that illuminates everything. The saints in heaven are looking at the sun, and in its reflection, they see us. This is why the author of Hebrews tells us in chapter 12, verse 1, that we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses. They aren't distant, they are a multitude that surrounds us, rooting for us as we run our race. Since St. Bridget saw that there are no secrets for them in what God allows them to see for our good, she witnessed that they are aware of our struggles, not to worry, but to intervene. In Book 7, Bridget describes a stunning visual. She saw the prayers of the faithful rising like golden incense, a direct echo of Revelation 5:8, where the elders hold golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the holy ones. Eu assigi- eigi- eu- She realized that our prayer acts as a direct channel of light. When you whisper a prayer for your father or your child, a spiritual notification of that love vibrates through the divine mirror. The souls in purgatory, in particular, cried out to Bridget, "Blessed be he who helps us in our sorrows." Eja somos Haiji. They see the very intention of your heart, and that recognition brings them an immediate relief that Bridget described as a breath of cold water in a desert. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, and it's a question I've heard many times over the years. You might wonder, yeah, if my mother can see me from heaven and she sees me crying or struggling with bills or illness, wouldn't that make her unhappy? How can heaven be perfect if she sees my pain? This is where St. Bridget's revelation becomes so profound. She was told that the saints have compassion, the deep desire to help, but they do not feel the agonizing, paralyzing sadness of the earth. Why? Because from their perspective in the divine mirror, they see the big picture. They see your current trial not as a tragedy, but as a necessary process of purification that is leading you straight to their arms. They see your victory before you even win it. You might also worry if this connection is somehow crossing a line into Spiritism or something forbidden. I want to be very clear with you. As Santa Esperanza, we are not summoning the dead to get secrets or predictions. That is what the Church forbids. What St. Bridget describes is the communion of saints. We don't call the soul, we call upon the Lord. We communicate through God. It is a holy conversation where the love you shared on earth is sanctified and kept alive by Christ Himself. You may have already noticed the subtle ways this connection manifests in your own life without even realizing it was a sign from the other side. You might be sitting in your kitchen in the middle of the night, the house finally quiet, when a sudden, sharp memory of your mother's voice or your father's laugh hits you out of nowhere. It's not just a memory, it's a pull, an almost physical tug on your heart that makes you stop what you're doing. Yeah, you find yourself looking at their old chair or a trinket they loved, and for a split second, the air feels different, lighter, or perhaps more intentional. These moments aren't accidents, and they aren't just your mind playing tricks on you because you're lonely. Over these 15 years of studying the saints, I've learned that these nudges are often the spiritual equivalent of a tap on the shoulder. You might feel a sudden, inexplicable urge to pray for them, even if they've been gone for decades. Or perhaps you're facing a crisis, a medical diagnosis, or a financial wall, and a specific thought of how they would handle it enters your mind, bringing a peace that shouldn't be there. That peace is the fruit of the cloud of the cloud of witnesses St. Bridget saw, a sign that the connection hasn't been severed but transformed. The most powerful way to act on this connection is through the holy sacrifice of the Mass. Saint Bridget was shown in her visions that a single Mass, offered with a sincere heart, has the power to lift souls out of the deepest levels of purification and into the radiant light of God's presence. When you go to the altar and place the name of your loved one there, you aren't just performing a ritual, you are opening a floodgate of grace that reaches them directly through the divine mirror. Now, I know a shadow might cross your mind when we talk about communicating across the veil. You might wonder, is this wrong? Am I drifting into Spiritism or something forbidden? I want to put your heart at ease. What the church forbids is trying to summon the dead for secrets or predictions, that is seeking power outside of God. But what St. Bridget describes as the communion of saints, we don't call upon the soul directly to pull them away from God. We go to God, and in Him we find them. It is like calling a friend through a shared Father. It is holy, it is safe, and it is the very essence of our faith. The second practice St. Bridget encourages is to move beyond just praying for your loved ones and to start praying with them. When you are struggling, talk to the Father and say, "Lord, let my mother, who is now in your light, join her prayers to mine for this intention." This acknowledges that they are more alive now than they ever were on earth. It turns your grief into a partnership of prayer. You might hesitate here, thinking, but Santa Esperanza, if they see my struggle and my tears, won't that ruin their happiness in heaven? I don't want to burden them. This was the very question Bridget asked Christ. The answer she received is beautiful. They see your pain, but they see it through the lens of eternity. They see your struggle not as a tragedy, but as a path that is bringing you closer to the same joy they now possess. They They don't feel the paralyzing weight of your sorrow. They feel the burning desire to help you finish the race so you can be reunited. The third practice is the rosary for the holy souls. Bridget saw this devotion as a golden chain that links our world to the next. Every bead is like a drop of cool water for a soul still in the process of being purified. If you suspect your loved one might still be in purgatory, don't let that discourage you. Bridget revealed that these souls are incredibly aware of who is helping them. They become your most loyal and grateful intercessors, constantly pleading your cause before the throne of God because they know your prayers are their bridge to the beatific vision. You might feel that your prayers don't matter because you don't see any signs or feel anything supernatural. But remember, Saint Bridget herself went through long periods of spiritual silence. Christ told her that faith isn't built on feelings but on his promise. Your prayer is heard the moment it leaves your heart, regardless of whether you feel a chill or see a light. To keep this connection strong, I suggest making it a habit to offer your very first thought of the morning for the souls in your family. Before you even get out of bed, say a quick eternal rest for them. Throughout the day, when you see something they would have liked, turn that thought into a quick prayer of gratitude to God for their life. This keeps the divine mirror clear and active in your daily routine, ensuring that you are never truly walking alone. This isn't just a way to remember the dead, it's a way to live with the living God and those who are now hidden in Him, waiting for the moment the veil finally drops for us as well. Imagine the weight of a silence that never ends, not because God has closed the door, but because we have stopped knocking. When we live as if our loved ones are truly gone, erased from our daily reality, we are essentially choosing to walk through a storm while refusing the umbrella someone is holding over our head. There is a specific spiritual loneliness that settles into the bones of a person who forgets the communion of saints. Your grief becomes a stagnant pond instead of a flowing river. You carry the burden of a final goodbye when God is offering you the grace of until we meet again. By ignoring this connection, you leave your most powerful intercessors, the ones who know your heart best, standing in the divine mirror with their hands full of graces that they cannot give because you haven't asked. Saint Bridget saw exactly what this spiritual exchange looks like in a vision that still makes my heart race. She was shown a soul that appeared like a piece of cold blackened coal, smoldering with the remnants of earthly attachments and the heavy weight of purification. It looked heavy, stationary, and trapped. But then Bridget saw the prayers of that soul's family on earth begin to rise like golden sparks. As each prayer touched the divine mirror, the coal began to vibrate. It started to glow from within, shedding its darkness like old skin until it cracked open, and a star of such radiant, blinding light emerged that it illuminated the entire spiritual realm. That soul didn't just move toward God, it flew, propelled by the love of the people left behind. This isn't just a mystic's dream, it is the fulfillment of a truth that has been part of our heritage since before Christ walked the earth. Think of Judas Maccabeus in the second book of Maccabees. After a hard fought battle, he found his soldiers dead on the field. He didn't just give a speech or build a monument. He acted with the urgency of a man who knew death wasn't the end. He collected thousands of drachms of silver and sent them to Jerusalem for a sin offering. He knew that the silver, when transformed into sacrifice, would reach his brothers across the divide. He understood that our tangible actions on earth, our masses, our sacrifices, our alms, are the spiritual currency of the next world. They are the only things we can send ahead to pack the suitcases of those we love. Bridget also witnessed what she called the spiritual embrace, a moment so tender it reveals the true heart of our departed. She saw that as a soul is finally ushered into the full beatific light of heaven, their very first act is not to sink into their own rest. Instead, they immediately turn back toward the earth. They look into the face of Jesus, and as if reaching through the veil, they begin to point to us, their children, their spouses, their struggling friends, pleading for our protection and our strength. They are like a scout who has reached the top of a dangerous mountain and is now leaning over the edge with all their might to pull the rest of the climbing team up to safety. The world tells you that death is a final cold wall, but St. Bridget reveals it is a thin, vibrating veil. The world says your relationship is now just a collection of memories and fading photographs, but the faith says it is an active living partnership. Most people let their grief become a museum of the past, but you are being called to make it a bridge to the future. What seems like a lonely silent house is actually a crowded room of witnesses. I know there are some of you listening right now who feel a deep secret guilt. Perhaps you haven't prayed for them in years. Perhaps you feel like you failed them while they were alive, and now you think it's too late to make amends. Majikish, I remember standing in my grandmother's room after she passed, feeling that exact same wall of too late. But Bridget's revelations changed everything for me. They showed me that too late is a lie. In God's mirror, time doesn't work like it does here. A prayer offered with a sincere heart today can reach back and heal a wound from years ago. If your mother, your father, or your child is standing in that light right now, looking at your life through the reflection of God, they aren't judging your silence. They are waiting for your voice. They are waiting for that golden spark of prayer to hit the mirror so they can finally transform into that radiant star. Knowing this, knowing that the golden chain is in your hands right now, can you really afford to let another day pass without reaching back to the one who is already reaching for you? I can see the tears in your eyes as we speak of these things, and I want you to know that those tears are seen by God and by those who love you in His light. If you have felt the heavy weight of silence or the stinging guilt of thinking it was too late, I am here to tell you to let that burden fall away right now. Saint Bridget was shown by Christ that in the heart of God there is no such thing as too late. Listen to the beautiful promise she recorded for us. Do not weep for having lost me, for in God I continue to love you and I await you in the true homeland. This is the living reality of the cloud of witnesses mentioned in Hebrews. They are not judging your past silence, they are celebrating your current prayer. To restore this connection and clear the divine mirror, I want to offer you a path of restoration. First, if there is unresolved guilt or a sense of failure toward your loved one, take it to the sacrament of confession. Let God's mercy wash the relationship clean, removing the spiritual soot that dims the connection. Second, set a specific date for a holy hour this week, just 1 hour dedicated entirely to praying for their soul and asking for their intercession, creating a sacred space where the veil becomes thin. Finally, perform an act of sacrificial charity in their name. Give a meal to the hungry or an offering to the poor as if their hands were reaching through yours. This transforms your grief into a living legacy of grace that echoes through eternity. As a reward for your faithfulness in seeking these truths, I want to share the specific prayer that Saint Bridget saw as a golden key to the heavens. Let us say it together now or write it down to keep near their photograph. Eternal Father, I offer you the most precious blood of your divine Son, Jesus, in union with all the masses said throughout the world today, for all the holy souls in purgatory and for my beloved deceased. Amen. You stand at a crossroads today. You can finish this video and return to a life of silent mourning, or you can pick up the golden chain of prayer and become the bridge your family needs. The choice to act is the difference between a memory that fades and a love that saves. If this revelation has brought peace to your soul, please click the like button as a small act of faith and subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming journeys into the hidden journals of the saints. In the comments below, please write the name of the loved one you are offering your prayers for today. It is a beautiful way for us to join our hearts in the communion of saints. Share this message with someone who is drowning in grief. Your share might be the very sign they have been begging God to send. Always remember, death is only a change of room in the same house of God. Stay in the light, stay in hope, and may the saints walk beside you until we meet again.